All right, let's talk about some mistakes that you could be making that are hindering your progress greatly. The first one that I wanted to go over is about gear, because I still see this getting talked about. And I want to, I guess, break down numerically why this is so important. I see too many people talking about completing sets and not worrying about the main stat on a piece of gear. So on a red piece of gear with HP percentage maxed out, it's going to be 32%. A maxed out legendary piece is 50%. You get a 15% bonus for completing a vigorous set. So if you can't complete a vigorous set, you should still go with a legendary piece that has HP as the main stat over completing the set, because even if you do have a mythic piece with a set bonus, it's still not going to equal the 50% that you would get from this piece alone. So when you're talking, especially as you get up into legendary gear, it is main stat over set bonus always in these instances. The only time that there's a conversation I think to be had about it is when you're talking about 4 set pieces. Light Gap, Herald, Gluttony, the ones that offer a bonus that does not have anything to do with your stats. That's when there's a conversation you can have about that. But as far as champs that just need HP, like your healers and generally your, I'm gonna say tanks because they use a lot, but I also kind of mean vanguards because that's kind of how we're all building our vanguards right now. Is HP. So like here, he happens to have this accuracy set. That's a coincidence. I've got mythic pieces I could put on and give him HP here, but he'd be losing HP. He's getting 50% from both of these pieces, whereas if I put him in a mythic set that was vigorous, for example, it'd be 32 plus 32, which is 64, and then plus 15 is 79. It's not even close. It's such a substantial difference by having legendary pieces. So always, when you're trying to improve those main stats, always main stat over set bonus. Don't ever sacrifice main stat for set bonus. All right, it's very important, and that you're going to scale so much higher if you'll do that. All right. Another one I want to talk about is not using champs because you can't get a bunch of copies of them and evolve them up all the way. In some instances, yeah, it's going to be tough. I would have a hard time making my Leo frontline with him just being at what is this, elite? Purple's elite in this game, right? So in some instances, it's going to be tough. I'm in chapter 39 of the story, so yeah, I'm going to have a tough time making him frontline. He's still okay though. Actually, let's just drop him in real quick. We're not going to win this fight, but I want you to see what he looks like in here. So we'll do that. We'll drop you, put Serena back in just to get an idea. And you can imagine like the stat difference and stuff. But let's just take a look at what happens to him here. Like he's obviously taking bigger hits. Bigger chunks of his HP are getting dropped. But he's not just immediately getting one-shotted. You know what I mean? He's not just completely useless. And then with his mechanics, he can stay alive a little bit longer, heal himself back up. He's got some cool mechanics. So the fight's been going on for a little bit. He's still in here. And he's top of my damage. You know what I mean? So just because he's not immortal doesn't mean he's unusable. Obviously, as you evolve champs further, they're going to get easier and easier to use. But most champs are usable regardless. And then there are some extreme exceptions to the rule. I'm going to let them go here because they might actually win this. And I've been stuck at this stage for a minute. So I'm actually going to give them a shot and see if they can't figure this out. Because I've tried a lot of different things to get through this stage. And we've gotten real close. We've gotten that Ornn down to about 10% health several times. And I can't wait. Okay, man, if that doesn't make my point for me, holy cow. I really thought we were going to jump in here and get killed immediately. I thought we were just... I was just going to show you that Leo could stay alive a little bit longer, but that, for whatever reason, seemed to be the answer. So there you go. GG to me. GG to Leo. So again, I think that pretty much makes my case for me. I don't even reckon I need to show you the footage now, but someone like Rez, for example, I mean, straight out of the gate, as soon as you get Rez, you get some good gear on him, some decent gear on him to keep him alive, and he's phenomenal. He has pushed me through several walls that I wouldn't have gotten through otherwise, I think. And you can put him in a light gap set when you start to get your hands on some light gap gear, and it's just gross. So your champs, they don't always have to be immortal to be used. And I mean, Leo just made a real good case for himself right there. That was pretty impressive. But yeah, don't just write off your champs because they're not legendary or immortal or whatever rank you think seems fitting to your account. I still use Skewer and Hattie on my on this account. I can't remember actually if I have Skewer and Hattie on the free to play, but either way, I still use Skewer and Hattie sometimes in some pretty like high level content, and it's fine. So obviously, the further you evolve your champs, the higher their stats are going to scale and stuff, but don't just assume they're unusable simply because they're not evolved to a certain level, okay? That worked out really well. I'm pretty pleased with Leo's performance there. Another one is, this particularly applies to Storyline and Soul Mine, but not trying a different composition when you hit your first wall. Because usually I know that I do it the same way. We come in, we hit challenge, we let our team go until they fail. We go do our other things. We make a few upgrades over the course of a day or two, depending on where we're at. We try it again. Sometimes we push through the wall. Sometimes we don't. This is especially true as you progress further in the game. There is not going to be a one-size-fits-all team. You are going to hit situations in the Storyline and in the Soul Mine where you're just going to have to switch your team up. And short of some extreme power-ups, short of sitting at that wall for a week while you make power-ups to your team and then come back and you're so strong you can just push your way through it. That's possible, and if you're not in a hurry, that's fine if you don't feel like changing your team up, but sometimes slight adjustments can be the answer. Sometimes, for example, Ornn, I've noticed has a tendency to hit my midline real hard, and I usually have Ravenna in the mid lane, but Ornn will take her out quick, so I'll just pull her to the back, and sometimes that's the answer to that stage. Or sometimes, you've heard me talk about Rakana being a real big pain in the ass in Soul Mine. Sometimes you have to change your comp up a bit to bait Rakana into doing something besides killing your damage dealer. So just because your team fails a certain stage doesn't mean you can't get through that stage. It just means you need to either rearrange your comp or slot someone else in. And on occasion, I do have to turn it off auto and focus Ravenna's ult, because someone like a Kawhi will jump into my back line. She'll turn around and ult him when there's 4 champs crowded around Crete that she could focus and get out of there, and then Crete could turn around and come help us deal with what's going on our back line. You know what I mean? So not trying different things every time you fail, because a lot of the time the answer is simply a composition adjustment rather than just the fact that you're not strong enough. And then sometimes you'll hit a spot where you just aren't strong enough yet, and that's going to happen too. But particularly in Story and Soul Mine, when you fail, try some different things. Move some champs around. You'll learn a lot about how they perform, what they do in certain situations. It'll be really good for you overall as well. And you might get quite a bit more progression out of it. And, you want to push through the story as fast as you can, because the deeper you are in the story, the better all of these resources are. All these time-gated resources, these 2-hour ruby stones and stuff. If you're in later chapters, you get more for them. So not a bad idea to do that. And then the last one that I want to talk about, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm going to show you an example of me being guilty of this, is forgetting to go back and increase the talents in your champs as you evolve them. There's a lot going on. And especially when you come into a lot of food and you hit evolve and quick evolve and intelligent evolve, and then you evolve your champs, and then you jump around and do another thing, it can be real easy to forget to come in and do that. And someone like my Hypnos, who I brought up kind of quick, I've been using him and I'm in love with this champ, and I'm actually recording a video on him today. And in prepping for this, I realized that I haven't come in and done his talents yet. He's one of my favorite champs that I'm using, and I have forgotten to do his talents. He could be doing so much more for me, but I forgot. So it's that easy to forget. Everyone's doing it. I think at all levels of the game, everyone's probably guilty of this at some point or another. So, and they matter a lot. The talents can have a huge impact. For example, here, he does that blue circle, you know what I mean? And let's read it real quick. Becomes a center of psionic powers and continuously gathers energy. If an enemy casts an ability within the boundary of the center, it suffers a power surge, taking 150% damage and stunned for 2 seconds. At the end of channeling, he gathers all the energy around him and bombards his foes, dealing attack damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. That's what the skill does. With his talent, allies within the center get a 7% speed increase. That's pretty substantial. That would add up. That especially if he's hanging out with damage dealers, right? So this blue circle goes from sometimes doing nothing because sometimes no one's in the circle, to now, if there's an ally around him, they're getting a speed bump simply because we come in here and we add to his talent. Okay, so they can have very big impacts on the skills of your champs. They're very important to do. You can get some pretty nice stat boost from here as well if you've got the points to invest in them. But for sure, come in and get all the big picture stuff. You know what I mean? And again, I'm guilty of it. There might be another champ sitting in here that I have forgotten to go through and do their talents as well. So it's not a bad idea occasionally to just make a sweep and just make sure that everybody's talents are caught up. Because again, sometimes you evolve some champs and it just doesn't occur to you that you've unlocked more stages in their talent tree. You know what I mean? And then I guess to kind of piggyback on that too, I'll talk briefly about exclusives. Exclusives probably deserve their own video, but I think one tip I want to give for them is if you've decided where you want to invest them, don't wait until you have enough to get to the next threshold to use them, okay? So like my Ravenna, for example. I know that I understand the desire to like wait until you can just take it from 10 to 20 or 20 to 30 so that you just do it and knock it out. But every level, you're getting a stat increase. And there's usually a very applicable stat in their exclusive. So like for Ravenna, she gets attack. For Serena, she gets healing, which is huge. On top of the perks she's getting from her exclusives, to also be increasing her healing percentage with every level is, again, just monstrous. And so rather than wait, if Serena is the first one you're doing, for example, and you've only got enough to give her 3 or 4 levels of her exclusive, and you're like, I might as well just wait until I can max it out. Don't wait, because she's getting a very important stat bump here. She's getting damage reduction and healing, which are very, very important for her, and it'll increase with every level. So don't wait. If you know where you're going to invest, just go ahead and put them in and take your stat bonuses as you work your way up to maxing out that particular stage of the exclusive, all right? And I reckon that'll do it. That's just some things that I thought might be helpful, that I thought I would touch on in case we've got any new players that are still figuring things out. And again, maybe even some seasoned players are forgetting talents. It's real easy to forget. So it's probably not a bad idea to jump in and do a sweep of your talents. And if you do that because of this video, let me know if there was a champ sitting among your top champs that you forgot to go in and do talents for. I'll be very interested to know how many people have done the same thing there. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I do hope it was helpful. We'll see you later.